See, Kerry, Fink, it never fails. Everybody likes that music.
John. Absolutely.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on into the Wednesday edition of Helping Seniors of Brevard. I'm John Harper. Let's get things underway as I introduce the host of the program and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here's Kerry Fink.
Thanks, John Harper. And thank you for helping hold down the fort last week, Thanksgiving week. It was a great show. I got a chance to hear it.
It was.
It was terrific. Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors and Kara Anderson of Simplifying Senior Living did a great job. They were taking a moment to be thankful for everybody that makes helping seniors possible. And it was a really good show. I got the chance to hear it as a podcast all the way from up in Northeast Georgia. And that's something that if you're new to this show, you can always pick up the Helping Seniors information. You can find it on our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on our Facebook page, or get us wherever you get podcasts, which would be iTunes or Alexa or any of those kind of things. You'll find Helping Seniors radio programs there as well. And so with that, lots of things to be thankful for today. Thank you for joining us on the radio today here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And for those of you who are listening online at WEJF.net. On behalf of our president and founder, Joe Steckler, our operations director, Nancy Deerdorf, we have got some amazing people. I love my job because we get to work with some of the really the best people in the universe, I think. And I'm going to introduce you to our guests today, who are both absolute experts and I think kind of heroes in the community. So we'll start. Today we're going to talk about some things that are going to be pretty interesting to cover. I think it's going to have a great deal of meaning for you. We titled the show about public benefits, which people say, well, what is that? We're talking about Medicaid and we're talking about VA planning kind of things. And so the perfect person to bring this to pass in here for us to talk a little bit about and get a conversation going so that you understand some of the nuances of this, at least enough that you know to give her a call and say, I've got questions, or I want to attend one of the seminars or learn a little bit more. But it's a great friend of Helping Seniors. She works with the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. She is a Martin Hubble Platinum rated, is as high as you can go in this. She is an expert elder law attorney, and her name is Katie Jackson Stolz. How are you?
Hi, Kerry. Good.
Good. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And our other guest is equally a hero in Brevard County because she is the one that I know you have a team of people, so I'm exaggerating just a little bit, but you really are a hero because you are the one that kind of spearheads everything that goes on at Career Source Brevard, helping seniors get effectively back to work. And you work together with the AARP Foundation to try to make all that happen. Really exciting that what we're going to talk about, this is something, even before I say her name, I'm going to ask you to grab a pencil and a piece of paper because you're going to jot this down. Tomorrow you're going to want to be in Rockledge at the Space Coast Health Foundation between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. because she is hosting or helping all of us have a great time and a great moment with a 50-plus back-to-work senior job fair. I'm talking about Lois Thomas with Career Source Brevard. Welcome, Lois.
Thank you so much for having me again, Kerry. It's always good to be here in the studio, so thank you.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for making time. I realize as you get up in the planning stage of everything coming together tomorrow morning, you're juggling a million details, so thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here. And while we're on this subject, let's just take a minute and kind of start right there. This is happening tomorrow, so we're talking about today is Wednesday, we're talking about Thursday, and we're talking about it's December 2nd.
December 1st.
December 1st.
Tomorrow is the first day of December. And so we're so excited about this job fair. It's going to be hosted at the Space Coast Health Foundation, and that's in Rockledge, Florida. We anticipate having several key employers, multi-industry employers there. And we're also going to have community-based organizations to share information on resources and services to best assist our senior job seekers. So it really is a 2-for-1. Not only are they going to be able to chat and connect directly with employers, but then they're also going to have an opportunity to get some information on community resources.
You know, you and I did a Helping Seniors update just last week where we were talking a little bit about this. And I think one of the things that was so fascinating to me is that, you know, there are job fairs, but this one, you're actually making sure that there's a focus for people who are seniors who may want to go back to work.
Absolutely.
And I remember making the comment to you, I think that's so important because one of the challenges that we really do have in our county right now, you've seen the articles, Joe Steckler, is all our president and founder, is always writing about this, which is we call it the affordable housing. It's actually a crisis because we're seeing so many homeless seniors because not through any fault of their own. They've been paying their rent diligently for year after year after year. But then somebody comes along, purchases a property at, quote, today's prices, and then those people are forced to try to deal with today's I guess, rent rates and things that they have to do to make everything fly. But it all trickles down to the back of the senior who just is trying to deal with a fixed income. So while every situation is different, one way, we always talk about this, say, if you're in your 30s or 40s and you find yourself, kind of up against a wall, whether it be inflation or rent increase or something like that, one option is to try to find more work. Maybe you work overtime. Maybe you take a second job or things like that. A lot of times we haven't really thought about that for seniors, but many seniors really do like the idea of going to work. But the problem is they've been out of the job market so long, they don't even know where to begin. And so what I really like about, and I want you to talk about, in this job fair, not only do you have access to employers who are looking fairly desperately for people to join their workforce, but you're also in a position where you help coach seniors on how to get that job. In other words, how last time they did this, that might have been sending a resume in the mail.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right, Kerry. And we do help them as best as we can get them job ready. So for the ones that have been out of the job market for quite some time, or whether they're just been out of the job market for a few weeks, we really help them with their resume, interviewing skills, how to market themselves to potential employers. And then we also host events like the one we're going to be doing tomorrow, where they have an opportunity to connect directly with employers that are actively hiring. And so I think it's such a good thing that they're able to take advantage of the resources at Career Source Brevard, specifically the Back to Work 50 Plus program. And then you mentioned housing. Housing is definitely a huge crisis. I would say within the past year, I've been encountering more and more seniors that are either facing homelessness or they're in danger of losing their homes. So being able to connect them with resources such as the Brevard County Housing and Human Services, they will be in the building tomorrow sharing information on resources for seniors. So I think it's good that not only are they able to get the information on jobs, but then they're also able to get some information on housing as well. There will also be other community agencies present as well. So we're so grateful that we're able to provide this much needed resources to seniors. And we're just so excited about tomorrow as well, so we can have an opportunity to connect and share with them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great time tomorrow, because not only is there an opportunity for you to come out and see who may be available as far as a potential employer. You were naming some of the folks, Lois, that are going to be in the area tomorrow for this. I know, for example, one of our own board members, Jennifer Barton, she has her company called Seniors Helping Seniors, and she said she's going to be out there because she's actively recruiting, and that's their business. They like to hire seniors to give help for other seniors.
Yes, so Helping Seniors will definitely be in the building tomorrow. We have several other key employers. And Jennifer, she's such a phenomenal partner as well.
Is.
She's hired quite a few of our participants, so it's so good to partner with her on this effort. We're also going to have a Kara Solutions, Addition Financial, Atlantic Shores and Rehab, BK Technologies, Brevard Achievement Center. I mean, the list goes on. We have quite a few employers and community-based organizations that will be present. Again, it is tomorrow. So for those of you who haven't registered it yet, I would strongly recommend to go ahead and register so that way you can bypass some of the crowd tomorrow.
Yeah, and we were talking about that, that wanted to give you a moment to grab a paper and a pen so that you can write down the phone number or the website, or what's the best way to pre-register?
I would recommend for them to go to our Career Source Brevard page. That's careersourcebrevard.com. And they can go to the tab Events. Under Recruiting Events, that information will be listed. They can go right to the site, and it will direct them to Eventbrite. From Eventbrite, they can go ahead and, of course, include their name and contact information. And once they hit submit, they will be registered and they will be set on our registration list. So again, they can go ahead and pre-register. However, we are accepting walk-ins as well. So that's one thing to be mindful of.
That's good. You know, I know it seemed like around the beginning of November, you had also, we saw you out with Nina Varuso, as she's Platinum Events Group. She's the one that organizes all these great senior expos that we're often part of. And I know that was also something where you were trying to be present and let folks know that there are employers who are looking for good quality help. And I always advocate for seniors being great folks to be in the workplace with, because if you think about it, they've had a whole lifetime of experience, most of them, being in the workplace, and maybe, you know, kind of shelved it for a little bit. So, but the point is they have generally a good work ethic. They're willing to do that. They're going to be appreciative of having a good job, and they're going to be reliable. And I think it really makes a good class of workers to try to embrace. And so I love seeing what you're doing to pull everybody together, but more importantly, that you're also willing to put these tools in place to help the seniors be ready. You know, it's because it's one thing you talk to, I can imagine, you know, here's a 70-something talking to maybe a 30-something who's trying to hire them. And there's always a little bit of a communications gap, even though we all trying from all sides, you know.
I always share with them, I said, you know what, you can't help the year that you were born, but you can help that how you articulate your skill sets and qualifications to the employer.
Well, that's good.
So it's definitely not a liability, because I know I sometimes speak with job candidates and they'll share with me, well, who will hire me at this age? And trust me, there are employers out there who are willing to hire experienced workers. That's what's most important, not your age, but your experience. Are you willing to do the work? Do you have the experience to back it up? That's what's most important. And so that's one of the things that I always articulate to our job seekers, is to just make sure that you're presenting your best self to the employer. Present your confident self to the employer, because that's also important as well, is having that confidence, because a lot of our participants, they come into the job center and they've lost their confidence. You know, they've been discriminated against because of their age. They face biases in different areas. So helping them not only work on their job readiness skills, but also helping them with their confidence as well, I think is so important and ideal.
Yeah, because I guess it's probably a little bit intimidating too, right? If you're a senior, I always remember this story growing up, because it's so funny how this has come full circle. When I was a kid, my dad was a nuclear chemist. He taught nuclear chemistry at Georgia Tech. So he would bring home these books that he published, and we couldn't even understand the title, let alone what was like in them. And I remember he would have to come to me and ask for help with a personal computer. So here we are all these years later, and I have to go to my son and ask him for help with my cell phone. So I can imagine this is probably pretty intimidating when you're a senior and you're going up to somebody and say, oh, just submit your job application online. We don't take walk-in applications or things like that. That's got to be pretty intimidating. And one of the things that you do is you help move people past that. I think you were even talking about that. I think you're going to have a photographer out there.
Yes. So tomorrow we are going to have a professional photographer present, and they will be taking photos for all of the participants that arrive. And one of the things, too, is social media. And I know you're pretty strong when it comes to social media, making sure that the Helping Seniors brand is out there and Facebook and LinkedIn and some of the other social sites. And so for our job seekers, we want them to actively engage in social media, especially as it relates to LinkedIn.
Right.
So having a professional photo, this is something that they can use to enhance their LinkedIn profile page. And when they go on to get a job, they can use that photo for their company profile or any other business venture. So I think it's helpful for them to have that option where they're able to have that professional photo. And so again, if you need an update in your LinkedIn photo, come on down. We'll definitely take care of you.
Okay, now listen to this, folks. Tell them the price of all this.
Absolutely free.
So,
Es gratis.
how can you go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So let's make sure people are getting a chance. We're talking about tomorrow. We're talking about Thursday, December 1st, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at, tell us again where it is. Maybe we don't know. We know Rockledge, but we don't maybe know exactly where we're going. So
okay, so it's going to be at the Space Coast Health Foundation. That's right off US 1. And it is in Rockledge, Florida. That's 1100 Rockledge Boulevard, Rockledge, Florida, 32955.
yeah, and again, if somebody wants to, because I know you have a lot of great resources online about this. So while they've got their pencil handy and are jotting down Space Coast Health Foundation Rockledge, where will they go one more time to look up about all this?
For more information about Career Source Brevard and any of our services, to include the Back to Work 50 Plus program, please feel free to tune in or go to any of our social media pages. You can also go to our Career Source Brevard website. That is careersourcebrevard.com. Again, that's careersourcebrevard.com. Also, you can give us a call at 321-504-7600.
Yeah, it's good. We're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go along. Our guest is Lois Thomas with Career Source Brevard. She's organizing the terrific Back to Work 50 Plus job fair that's happening tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Space Coast Health Foundation in Rockledge. You should be there. Maybe even if you're just contemplating a job, maybe you're not sure you want to go back into workforce. What do you have to lose? Because again, the price is FREE. So it's a great moment, great moment to be out there, I think.
Yeah, and Kerry, you will also be out there as well.
You know it. So both me and Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, are planning to be out there. We're going to do some Facebook Live, and because we love this. This is how the community works together to help seniors, right? There's going to be a different solution for each person that comes along. Some people can absolutely manage the workforce. In fact, it might give them a sense of purpose. I guess you see that sometimes. Somebody who felt maybe burned out, they actually get into a work job. It's not always about the money. It's they feel like they're doing something that they're important.
Absolutely. And we have individuals, they're not just looking for part-time work. They may be looking for something to supplement their income. And so we have individuals who are looking for part-time work, full-time work, or they may just want to contribute their skill sets and qualifications to something meaningful. And so, of course, a job fair like this, where they're able to connect directly with employers and they're able to get information on different community agencies. You never know. Some of them may be accepting volunteers as well. So that's something to consider for tomorrow's event.
Yeah, I remember hearing Jennifer Barton say that, her ideal is she said she loves somebody who has the heart of a volunteer but doesn't mind taking a paycheck. It's kind of a neat way to put it. Well, so again, thanks, Lois Thomas. We're going to talk more about it as the show goes along. Katie Jackson Stolz with the law office, Amy B. Van Fossen, you've been sitting here very politely, just hearing us talk about this. I think it's a great thing. Talk just how this strikes you.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's fantastic. I love listening to that. It got me all excited for seniors because obviously I love seniors too.
Yeah.
It made me think about different clients that I have and how that really can help and accommodate so many people. So I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I hope a lot of people are listening and go there today. I mean, the professional headshots, everything that you guys are offering, that's truly an amazing thing and a reminder of why this county is so great and everyone is working so hard for our seniors.
And that's a good point that you're bringing up, is that the fact that one of the things that has occurred to us, as I'm talking about, is helping seniors. We're a Florida nonprofit. We're a pretty small nonprofit, but we have been around for 12 years. And Joe Steckler, who organized our organization, he's the president, founder, chairman of the board, the whole thing. He's the guy that built those, they call them still to this day, the Joe's Clubs for Brevard Alzheimer's. And when he began helping seniors, and I met him all those years ago, he said, Kerry, he said, what I've come to realize is that seniors have more challenges than just strictly memory problems. And so I want to create a nonprofit that's going to be able to help people and their families to navigate all the things that seniors run into. So the job thing can be one of them. And it's really a way to approach this. But then the other side of it, we've talked about this many times this year. We set as our goal as helping seniors. We do several things. We have a senior information helpline at 321-473-7770 that we've now operated going into 12 years, which is people calling us looking for direction and navigation about how to do things. But the other side of what we do is we try to get information out. It's like why we do the radio show, why we do the TV shows, why we do publishing in the center of Senior Scene magazine with our Helping Seniors newsletter. We're trying to get people to get a little bit ahead of the curve and think before there's a problem. So preparation is never time wasted. And so we set our theme for this year, and we called it Getting Your Ducks in a Row. So it's just a euphemism for something Joe has talked about, which he calls making an aging plan. Like, we understand a hurricane plan. It doesn't mean you want a hurricane. It just means you want steps to help you navigate something if it's headed your way. And that's what an aging plan is about. But as we've done this all year, Katie, one of the things that we've really become clear to us, and I was thinking about this even as we were talking with Lois Thomas with CareerSource, is there's a corollary to this, and I think it's going to be our theme for next year. Don't try this on your own. There is so much good help that's available to help you navigate these things. And like we were talking about with Lois, all the things that she can do to help you get ready for the job market, but on a whole different layer and a different tact is what you do to help seniors and their families get ready for the things that they need to be thinking about, but all too often maybe don't think about in advance. And so you in particular, the area we're going to focus in on, I know you do probate work with the law office, but we really wanted to kind of talk a little bit today about the whole idea of public benefits, because most of us just assume that Medicare covers, like, oh, I need to go into we call it an old folks home because we don't know enough about all the definitions. Oh, if I get old and I can't manage things, I just go into Medicare will pay for it. And the answer is that's not true, right?
Right, that's not true. So a lot of people do think that, and I've heard clients tell me that, but at some point Medicare stops. And
right.
Then we get a lot of calls at that point from families saying, we didn't realize that. Please help us, essentially.
Right. And I know that in what you specialize in, they call it public benefits, but in particular, we're talking about two, I guess, big buckets. There may be others, but as I follow it, it's Medicaid, that you help people get qualified for Medicaid, and that you also help them get qualified for VA benefits. And the challenge with this is that you're dealing sometimes with both sides. You can help people in a crisis, but your preference would be to help them plan before there's a crisis, right?
Absolutely. So there's the pre-planning and then there's the crisis. So not all attorneys' offices do both. Some do one or the
Right.
other, but we do a lot of both. So we have pre-planning where clients want to, maybe someone is starting to age and they've noticed something onsetting. And so they give us a call to come in and just really have everything looked at and see what what benefits are available to them or will be in the future. And then the whole other side of that is crisis, where you kind of crunch it all into one and you're rushing to do what you can to come up with a plan for a family.
Yeah, I know I've had this conversation, in fact, not so long ago, with Amy Van Fossen, who is the attorney. It's her law firm, the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. And you guys, by the way, as a law firm, you guys were voted like best in this area. Am I saying that right, by the Florida Today?
Yes, we won the Best of Brevard this year for, I think it was real estate and estate planning attorneys.
Oh, wow. Well, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this topic, and we're going to be talking about some real specifics that you'll want to keep that pad of paper close by on the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show. We'll see you just past the half show break.
Hey, it's 12:32 in the afternoon here on this Wednesday. Now let's get back to more of Helping Seniors of Brevard with your host, Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Hey, thanks, John Harper. Yeah, we're always good to have you along with us as we do the lunch hour together on Wednesdays here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And again, hello to those of you who catch us online at wejf.net. And those who also catch this later as a podcast. Because a lot of times the stuff we talk about, some of it's time sensitive, as we have been talking about with our special guest, Lois Thomas of Career Source Brevard, because tomorrow, Thursday, is the big day. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is the Back to Work 50 Plus job fair. That's going to be just a great time, Lois. I'm looking forward to us being out there with Helping Seniors and just meeting everybody who, I think anybody who wants to participate in the job fair and be part of the solution of hiring seniors is great. And I'm also applauding every person 50 plus who says, I'm going to go out there and see what kind of great opportunities I can have in front of me for 2023.
Absolutely. And you mentioned everyone that's a part of this effort. I do want to definitely recognize our Career Source Brevard staff team, and then also the multi-industry employers that have agreed to participate in the event as well. And one thing about all of the employers that will be participating tomorrow, these are all employers that they definitely support a multi-generational workforce, which was very important to me when I was putting together this event. And so we're definitely excited, Kerry, excited to have you and everyone who will be participating. And then all of the job seekers that are going to be coming in, we want them to walk away satisfied with getting information from the community resources, and then also hopefully a potential opportunity as well.
Yeah, this is like win-win for everybody because, you go to so many businesses and they say, I just can't, I'm having a tough time getting good help. And then you hear the flip side. It's like, well, I probably have something to offer, but I'm not sure how to go about it in today's market. This is going to be great. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Space Coast Health Foundation, Thursday, December 1st.
Tomorrow.
So that's why I say sometimes on the radio we're talking about things that are very like in the moment, but then there's stuff that's also we talk about that really is worthwhile to maybe catalog because you may need it right now or you may need it at some time in the future. And we know for a fact people will go and look stuff up by topic because all of a sudden, we should plan ahead, but sometimes we don't, and then it becomes a crisis. And that's why we're so fortunate to have in the studio with us also our other guest, Katie Jackson Stolz, with the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. She's an elder law attorney. Her expertise ranges on everything from probate, but what we're talking about today is actually what people call public benefits. And this is an area that is really a don't try this on your own kind of area because what I know this much, Katie, is that people say, oh, I saw an ad on TV, I can download a form, I can do all my own paperwork, I don't need to pay big attorney fees. And then what I've understood is not only does it not work at the moment of crisis when you really need it to work, but to undo what they thought they were doing correctly but found out was incorrect now is going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars, whereas it would have been a very minimal fee to just get things set up right. You have the peace of mind and the comfort of just saying, let me call my attorney because I don't understand this paperwork. They'll walk me through it. Katie?
Absolutely. So I think when we talk about public benefits and Medicaid and VA aid and attendance, if we're ever working with the client to obtain those, we're looking more big picture. It's never at only those things. So we also are looking at their estate plan. So if they have a will in place or a trust or advanced directives like a power of attorney, which is what Miss Van Fossen always says is the most important document in Florida.
Right.
So you're completely correct. I see a lot of things that have to do with gifting and adding children's name to deeds and different things that we have to backtrack and reverse. And when you do gifting, there are penalties in both the Medicaid and the VA aid and attendance world. So we see a lot of people getting not the best advice or just trying to do things on their own. And so we have to it's not as streamlined. We have to back up, correct it, just like you do with put a roof on wrong. You got to, patch it up, fix it, however you do it. So I certainly see a lot of things as a probate attorney as well that were done wrongly on the estate planning side. So wills that were downloaded off the internet and done, and then once the person passes away, when we go to probate their estate, it doesn't end up going where they really wanted because of some technicality in that document. So that's always really sad when you have someone there, a loved one, that will say, I know dad wanted this to go there, but I say, I'm sorry, the law is, because this document was not done correctly, we have to do the law with no will or whatever it is.
And it seems like it's so critical because at the moment you need this paperwork to work right, there's not really any kind of an opportunity for a do-over.
Absolutely not. And that's the hardest part from the estate planning side, is because you don't know there's a defect, if you will, in your will or in your trust until you pass away. And so a lot of people, there are a lot of legal Zooms and very inexpensive ways to get estate planning documents done now. But if you have an attorney's office or someone do it, you know that your testamentary wishes, which are just your wishes for how you want your assets to pass, it will happen that way, and the documents will have been executed properly according to law.
Yeah, and not only that, though, but I think this applies into the conversation about the public benefits, too, because I remember sitting with Amy Van Fossen, and we did a TV show that she titled, Don't Put Your Kids on Your House Title, or don't put your kids on your bank account. And she went into a very deep explanation about why this is not a good idea. But I'm thinking about, particularly as we're talking about public benefits today, because it really has to do with this thing, look back period, that when you're putting together these applications for the assistance that's desperately needed or going to be needed, then they say, well, my daughter was going to inherit the house anyway, so I just signed it over, so now I don't have any assets, and now I'm all set for my Medicaid planning. And then you have to sit there and explain it's not that simple.
Absolutely. So for Medicaid or for VA, they're very concerned with gifting. So with Florida Medicaid, there is a 5-year look-back period for gifting. For VA, there's a 3-year look-back period for gifting. But there's an argument of adding a child or anybody to an asset, you've just given them half of that asset. So adding a child to a bank account with $100 grand or 10 grand, it's like you just gave them 50 grand or 5 grand, and you can and will be penalized for gifting if there's nothing done to cure that gift.
Right. And so what I follow is if you didn't do correct planning and all of a sudden, mom or dad has to go into a situation where they've got to have a skilled nursing facility for like just a long time, whatever that means. But then there's a penalty that comes back because it's something like, I think, if you have to correct me if I say this wrong, but it was like almost like, since a nursing facility can cost like 10 grand a month, if you gave away $100,000, that's like 10 months that they don't cover or something. Am I saying that about right?
You are, and Kerry, your ability to grasp this information and remember it over time amazes me. But in Florida, for Medicaid, there's currently a penalty divisor, and it's approximately $10,000. The state purposely tries to make that penalty divisor the amount of 1 month in a nursing home.
Wow.
So you're absolutely correct. If you were to gift $100,000, we would divide it by the penalty divisor of $10,000, which it's currently around that. And so that would be 10 months that you would be ineligible for Medicaid benefits, because of 100,000 divided by 10,000 leaves us with 10 months of penalty period.
Now, so let's go back to this case where you said, well, I need my daughter's help with the bills, so I just put her on my bank account. And let's just go back to your example and say there was maybe $100,000 that was, not necessarily in the checking, but maybe in the savings account that was connected to it. When you're helping that person in a moment of crisis now, they come to you and say, well, mom's can't come home. She's got to go to a skilled nursing facility. So we got to get this set up. Would they actually look at that $100,000 and say, well, you gifted 50 of it? Or I'm sure it's very much more complicated than I'm trying to make it out to be, but how does that factor into an equation like that?
When it's a checking or a savings account?
Yeah, somebody just said, I put my daughter on there.
Yeah, there's the argument that it was a gift of half of the amount that
Wow.
is in that account. So, and a problem too is if you add someone on, then what if they start spending the money for themselves? So it's one thing if you add them on, and then if we need to fix it, we take them off, but they didn't touch a penny of the money.
Right.
Which that comes into other issues, because what if later down the road, maybe mom isn't as able to get to the bank or doesn't have capacity? She's probably going to need to go to the bank to help for daughter to come off. They're both going to have to
Right.
sign. So those are the issues down the road, is working with banks to correct things also are much tougher as people aren't able to travel to banks as well, just with aging, or their capacity is not there. And so in some cases you can cure the gift by the person giving the money back. So say you just straight outright gave a child $20,000. In some cases, a year later, you can say, we need that $20,000 back. But as you can imagine, if you gave all three
Wow.
kids $20,000, one of them probably bought a boat. One of them still has it. The other one might have 10 or 5,000. So we have to come up with different ways to kind of cure the gift to still get someone qualified.
Yeah, but what I do remember from us having these conversations, prior, is that there is a correct and legal way to do a lot of this, because there is ways to put things together properly for Medicaid planning or VA planning that allows the person to make sure their wishes are being are being put into practice, but in a way that's still consistent with all the constraints that you have to go through to make sure that they can be Medicaid qualified or VA qualified.
Absolutely. So, and that's the benefit of pre-planning, because we really allow people we evaluate their income, their assets, and we look big picture at what strategies and tools does Florida Medicaid provide to us to get this person qualified. Right. So then we discuss those tools with the family. A big one in Florida for Medicaid is a personal care contract. So that is a often used strategy where you are able to lump sum money to a caregiver child. And so it's not a gift. It is in the Medicaid rule book. And so we disclose it all to Medicaid. But rather than gifting your child $20,000, we could do a personal care contract, which is kind of a caregiver agreement. Because for most of my clients, they have a great caregiver child who's driving them to doctor's appointments, helping them with their groceries, maybe with cooking, all kinds of stuff. So they already are doing these things that, but for that child, that family would either need to pay for a private caregiver.
Right.
Mom or dad wouldn't be able to live home alone. They'd have to transition to an assisted living facility. So the state allows for these personal care contracts. So that's just one of the many tools that we can use to kind of transfer assets and maintain Medicaid eligibility.
This is so important. And I was smiling because I was thinking like Lois Thomas with CareerSource, who's in here. This is something that really affects every single family. Because Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, has this thing that is really such a good saying. She says, "You don't know what you don't know," and so you think you might be doing something with maybe a right motivation in your heart. I want my kids to have this, but you didn't realize you're really gumming up the works for a lot of things that's going to cause everybody a lot of heartache later on.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely correct. And just even listening to you share with Kerry, I would just love, I don't know if it's too late, but I think having this information is so important. So maybe even somewhere down the line arranging so you can come and talk to some of our participants, or maybe even having you at the job fair tomorrow. You never know if your schedule is open, to just share this information, because Kerry, you're absolutely correct. Knowledge is important. And the more you know, the better you're able to plan accordingly and, of course, make adequate decisions that not only affect yourself, but also your family members as well.
It's a thing that I've had this conversation, I think, with everybody. You guys, first of all, it's the law office is Amy B. Van Fossen, but you guys actually have, 3 or 4 attorneys now total. So you guys are really like a fast growing practice. But I always make this comment every time I'm over there or meeting with people. You guys are like the nicest people in the world. You do not seem like attorneys, because I don't know, we have this image of like the attorneys very stuffy, very can't explain things, can't break it down in a way that us regular humans can get it, right? But you really have an ability to make it not intimidating. And I think, is that probably one of the reasons we don't do a good job of planning ahead, is because we're kind of scared of it, or we don't know the right questions to even to begin to ask?
I think so. And I think also that it's a world where people don't want to think that far in advance. So there's a bit of denial that we're reaching that point. So with it being the holidays, we do get a lot of calls over Thanksgiving and Christmas, because maybe like you traveled to Georgia, for example. So family gets together and a child might have noticed mom or dad has progressed more than the last time we saw them. Oh wow, they're further along. And then we get the call. So this time of year, we're actually busy because of all the families traveling and catching up with their loved ones. I think a lot of people, after we meet with for the pre-planning, even if they don't need Medicaid or VA aid in attendance right now, we still look at their will. Lois, I'm thinking of you with all the siblings and how, those ones are usually just better to get ironed out early on. But we look at their will, how their assets would pass if they passed away. We look at how much money they have, their burn rate, how much that money they'll have left if they're spending at this amount. And so most people leave that saying, I feel so much better. Yeah, I feel so much better.
I was going to say, I've heard that over and over. It's like one of these things that you put off, and then when you get through it, you have like this whole peace of mind, because now things are set. And I've heard Joe Steckler, our president and founder, talk about this, that when you set this stuff up the right way, on one hand, you are kind of doing it for yourself, but the reality is you're actually doing it for your family, because then it becomes clear, right? Nobody has to go, well, I thought mom meant that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And being a probate attorney as well, I understand that's something I really want for my clients during life, is them to know when you pass, this is exactly how things are going to go. And I want it to match up with what their testamentary wishes are and what they truly want. So we definitely sit down and look at that big picture.
Yeah, so we're talking with Katie Jackson Stolz with the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. She's kind of a specializes in probate, but also public benefits. And there's a point that I just wanted to sneak in here, because I remember talking with Amy in particular, and she said that you guys occasionally get confronted with documents that were put together by an attorney, but was not an elder law attorney. And then it really puts you in an awkward position of saying, kind of bluntly, like, this isn't going to do what you thought it was going to do, because the person who put it together, even though they had passed the bar and all this wasn't their specialty. Like going to a podiatrist when you need something with your heart,
Absolutely. And I think how you guys have your ducks in the row, get your ducks in the row theme, which I love, that has been an issue that we have been seeing so frequently this year. So when you do Medicaid planning for someone, most people, some do have capacity. They are with it. They are ready to go. They can sign anything and help transfer the assets and anything you need, request information. But the majority are not. And that's why we're doing Medicaid planning for them. They might be in a nursing home. They might be in a rehab for a medical event that they've had. So in those situations, we are relying on their power of attorney. We're relying on the person that they named in that document who now has the authority to go do all this stuff we need them to do. But in that power of attorney document, it's got to specifically state every action that they're going to be doing. And so because we do Medicaid planning, we make sure every single Medicaid thing, our power of attorney, our agent, whatever we need to do, is buried in there somewhere. And over the last 15 years, Amy, anytime a client has called and said, this bank didn't let me do this, a client who had our power of attorney, we went and typed it in. Because when you have a power of attorney, when you go to actually use it, say it is at a bank, that bank is going to have their legal team review it. And they are going to look for the exact thing you're trying to do and make sure it's in there. So the shortfall is attorneys that don't do Medicaid, they might not know to put that in their document. So, for example, a real estate attorney, they're going to have every wonderful thing in their power of attorney to sell a house or a mortgage, reverse mortgage. They're going to have it all. They've got it covered. But if they don't specialize in Medicaid, they don't know to have the ability to make a personal care contract or execute a qualified income trust. All these other really nitty-gritty technical things that at the end of the day have got to be in that document if your agent's doing the Medicaid planning.
So this is exactly why we keep coming back to the corollary to getting your ducks in a row is don't try this on your own. Get some help. And like Lois Thomas with Career Source was saying, it's like, This is one of the things you guys are very generous with your time. You take time out of your schedule to come and be with us on the radio and help share this information. You've done that with the TV shows. You've got an article coming out in the December issue of the Helping Seniors newsletter that you're actually talking about what are the kind of like the steps with the loss of a loved one. What do you do? Nobody teaches us this stuff. We don't know. But you guys do a lot of seminars and things like that because you want to get the information out in the community. And I think that's actually, to be honest, that's like the most brilliant way, because then people get to know you guys. They come to respect your expertise in this. They also, by the way, figure out you guys are all nice people. But beyond that, they're really getting an education for themselves. But you guys are often doing these seminars where you explain to people, these are the things you need to be thinking about. How do people find out about those seminars, where they are, how to get involved, and what's the cost?
So the seminars are free.
Aha, there's that word. We
I
like
love
that
word, Kerry.
That's a great word, Lois.
The seminars are free, and it's a great way to come learn about different areas of law. So we have a seminar just focused on VA aid and attendance. We've got a seminar just on Medicaid. Just on estate planning, and also trust funding. So trust funding is what you do, what you're supposed to do after you have a trust, kind of what's next. So whether we did the trust or anybody else did the trust, you're welcome to come to a trust funding seminar. To find out the dates and the times for these seminars, you can call the office at 321-345-5945 and just ask, when are the next seminars? I'd like to register. You can also go online on our website, www.amybvanfossen.com.
And I think there's like a benefit too, right? Because if you attend one of the seminars, then you also get like a certificate or something that allows you to sit with the attorney or make an appointment with the attorney is probably the better way to say it. Because then you can get into the specifics of your own case and say, well, here's what I'm trying to do. How would this work for me, right?
Absolutely. So in the seminar, we do big picture, the rules and how things are going. People can ask questions as well. But at the end of the seminar, you get a free consultation with an attorney.
Wow.
So then you can come back and have that consultation, get that set up, and then we can really look at the nitty gritty of your exact case, your facts, all the variables to your life, and put forth a plan to go forward.
Yeah, and there's the one final thing that I love is I think I heard Amy say this. She said, most people might deal with, like, I'm just using this, I think she was talking about probate in particular. She was talking about, most people go through this process maybe once, twice in their life, a couple of times at most, because, it's your mom, it's your dad, it's your uncle, something like that. You guys are dealing with this like 30, 40 a week. So this isn't like not your first rodeo, right? I mean, you guys have seen and really been through it all. And then she said the practice has been going like 20 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a boutique elder law firm, estate planning law firm. So we don't dabble in other areas of law. And I have heard Amy say that before. You guys might do this one time in your life. This is what we do all day long. So for my probate, when I work with personal representatives of probate estates, when they have to go through that long process, those are usually the ones that very quickly say, sign me up. I want to get my will looked at. I want to know whatever I have to do so my kids don't have to go through this process. Yeah,
that goes back to the point that Joe said. You really you put this stuff together. It's a little bit for your own peace of mind, but it's really because you love your kids and you want it to go the way you want it to go. And I've also heard it said, if you don't have a plan for this stuff, the government has a plan for it. It just may not line up with what you want to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love when it does line up, but it's always sad when it doesn't, especially when you really know that person would have wanted things to go differently.
Yeah, so we're talking with Katie Jackson Stolz with the law office of Amy Van Fossen, elder law attorney, and also our guest today, Lois Thomas with Career Source Brevard. We've been having this conversation. I said, really, as we were starting the show, we said, it's interesting how these two topics work together because at the end of the day, they really do affect your finances all the way through. So on the one hand, we're talking about for those who would want to consider going back into the workforce, that's exactly, Lois Thomas, what you've got coming up tomorrow with the Back to Work 50 Plus job fair. Absolutely free. Not only is it just to go and meet the employers who are going to be there, but you're also going to be helping them. I think we said we could get your free headshot so that you'll be set up for all the social media. It's funny because like if you've ever done a search like on LinkedIn, and you'll hit somebody say, I think it's the person, but I don't know because there's not a photo there. So I don't know if I'm typing John Smith if that's the John Smith that I think I'm typing for.
Now they can put the face with the name. So you're absolutely right. Again, just as a reminder, the Back to Work 50 Plus Senior Job Fair is going to be hosted at the Space Coast Health Foundation tomorrow, December 1st, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to have employers there. We're also going to have community-based organizations as well. And come on down and get your free professional headshot.
Yeah, thank you, Lois Thomas with Career Source Brevard. So we'll see you tomorrow out there in Rockledge. And thank you, Katie Jackson Stolz with the Law Office of Amy B. Van Fossen for sharing your Martin Hubble Platinum rated experience as she's blushing. But the point is, get the help that will help you do this the right way. It will give you so much peace of mind. Take the expert help. So last thing before we go, you can still go on the Helping Seniors Foundation Cruise. It's a fundraiser for Helping Seniors. January 6th, January 8th. We're sailing out of Port Canaveral on MSC's Meraviglia. There's actually several hundred people who are coming with us on each sailing. So we're really excited about that. Chris Morse, who directs the travel club, says there's still time to get involved. You can find out more information at helpingseniourstravelclub.com. And it's a fundraiser because we need your help. We're a nonprofit. We don't go anyplace or can do nothing if you don't support the work of Helping Seniors. So thank you on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, and Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director. And we will see you next week right back here for Helping Seniors Radio on 90.3 FM WEJF.